When was the last time you visited a library? For many people, a library is just a place to borrow books. But for me, it is much more than that. It is a place where I can slow down, clear my mind, and learn something new. Every time I walk through its doors, I feel inspired to become a better version of myself. Today, I'd like to take you with me on a quiet visit to my favorite library, where I discovered that learning English is not only about studying words. It is also about building patience, curiosity, and a lifelong love of learning. Let's begin. A peaceful morning. It was a bright Saturday morning. The weather was cool, and the streets were still quiet. I packed a notebook, a pen, my headphones, and a bottle of water into my backpack. Then I walked to the local library. As I opened the large wooden door, I immediately felt calm. The library was peaceful. People spoke softly. Some students were reading at long tables. Others were searching for books on tall shelves. The smell of paper filled the air. Sunlight came through the large windows, making the room feel warm and welcoming. I found an empty seat near the window. It quickly became my favorite place. From there, I could see trees moving gently in the wind while birds sang outside. I took a deep breath. The busy world suddenly felt very far away. Choosing the right book, I walked slowly between the bookshelves. There were books about history, science, travel, business, cooking, and art. For a moment, I wanted to choose a difficult English novel. Then I remembered an important lesson. The best book is not the hardest one. The best book is the one you can enjoy. So, I picked a simple English story written for learners. The cover was colorful. The sentences were short. The words were familiar. As I began reading, I noticed something interesting. Because the story was easy to understand, I did not need to stop every minute to check the dictionary. Instead, I focused on enjoying the story. When I found a new word, I guessed its meaning from the sentence. Most of the time, I guessed correctly. That made reading much more relaxing. I realized that learning becomes easier when we stop trying to be perfect. A quiet lesson. After reading for about 30 minutes, I took a short break. I looked around the library. An elderly man was carefully reading a newspaper. A little girl was smiling while reading a picture book. A university student was taking notes from a thick textbook. Everyone was learning something different. Everyone had their own reason for being there. That made me smile. Learning has no age. It has no finish line. Whether you are 10 years old or 70 years old, you can always learn something new. I opened my notebook and wrote one sentence. Every page I read today is a gift to my future self. When I looked at those words, I felt motivated again. I understood that every small effort matters. One page today, another page tomorrow. After many months, those small pages become real progress. English is everywhere. Before leaving the library, I visited the language section. There were dictionaries, grammar books, English novels, travel guides, and magazines. I borrowed one simple storybook and one English listening book. As I walked toward the exit, I realized something. English was no longer just a school subject. It had become part of my daily life. I listened to English while walking. I practiced while cooking dinner. I read stories at coffee shops. And now I enjoyed peaceful mornings at the library. Little by little, English had become a habit instead of a task. That was probably the biggest change of all. When learning becomes part of your lifestyle, you no longer need to force yourself. You simply enjoy the journey. As I walked home with 2 books in my backpack, grateful. I had not spent the day doing anything exciting. I had simply visited a library. Yet I returned home with new ideas, new vocabulary, and a peaceful mind. Sometimes the best places are not the loudest or the most popular. Sometimes they are the quiet places where we can think, read, and grow. If you have a library near your home, maybe this week is the perfect time to visit. Choose a simple English book. Read one chapter. Write down one new word. Enjoy the silence. You may discover that learning English can be one of the most relaxing parts of your day. Thank you for joining me on this quiet visit to the library. I hope this story inspires you to keep reading, keep learning, and stay curious. Remember, every book you open, every page you read, and every new word you learn brings you one step closer to your dream. I'll see you in the next English Learning podcast. Have a peaceful day.